Thank you, Kevin. And by the way, you may compliment me on my new haircut. This is
I
my
like
New
it.
Year's
It's very
haircut.
short.
I also got my eyebrows trimmed up, and
Did you really?
yes, indeed.
Did they go crazy?
No, they were actually really, really cool. I was a little nervous. I was
Trying to get
apprehensive.
eccentric?
Well, seriously, I normally don't do something like getting my eyebrows trimmed, but I was a little werewolfy, so they took care of that for me. And now I don't feel like people will chase me with pitches and torches and silver bullets anymore.
Well, I got my hair cut, but my beard is still rather long.
Yeah, well, are you
went back to
going
St.
for the
Louis.
bristling beard of Odin? Is that going to be a thing for you?
I'm going in that direction. I might as well just keep going.
You might as well. But if you're going to grow Odin's beard, you are going to wear the eye patch.
Oh, that'd
No
be
two
fun.
ways around it. We're going to pluck your eye, and you're going to wear the eye patch.
I saw a while I was going into work this morning. I saw a guy coming out of work, black guy with an eye patch, wearing all black. Nick Fury!
Oh my goodness!
Coming out! I didn't say anything. I was just like,
but you wanted to.
I so wanted to.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Flashback fans, comic readers all across this great nation of ours and around the world, not to alienate anybody who might be listening to this podcast in Cameroon.
We do have people from all around the world.
Yeah, really?
At least the English-speaking world.
Yeah. Have you considered translating us in other languages?
Sounds like a big pain in the butt. So no, not seriously considered it ever. So hey, hello again, and welcome to the Comics Online podcast /Flashback. Comics and Games Top 5 Comics. This is part 1 of our 2-part every week dealie that we do.
Our first show in 2015. Happy New Year, everybody. Belated. I know. I'm sorry. I'm late.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'll make up for it later.
So we're your hosts. I'm Kevin Gaussoin, and this
is still Troy David Phillips.
Yeah.
This is really Kevin, by the way. I checked him on the Squirrel detector just to be certain.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We wouldn't want to get that wrong.
Yeah, no, we would not. We would not.
So we've got our top 5 comics for our first top 5 comics for 2015. You've got a bigger stack over there. You've got a little flow overs, being as though we had a holiday week off last week.
Right. And so I thought maybe from last week, people who might not have known, I would tell them very, very quickly about a few things that made my read pile.
They're really important.
Yes. Number 1.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kevin. Number 1 with a phaser. Star Trek Planet of the Apes. IDW boom. Bringing it together. I love Planet of the Apes. I love Star Trek. Star Trek's ongoing series from IDW has been great. I'm enjoying the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes series. So the collaboration between the two companies is pretty freaking sweet. Let me just give you a little treat of some Star Trek.
Kapla, you damn dirty apes.
And let me give you a little taste of some ape.
And he doesn't mean it the way that he does sometimes, because
only Kevin means it that way. Now, quickly moving on. There was a number 1 from Image. Image Comics last week gave me The Graveyard Shift.
Another Jay Farber work.
This is incredible. I'm going to show you the wraparound cover because it was beautiful. Not unlike another one of my favorite comics, a comic called Suicide Risk. This starts out as a kind of intense cop drama, but very quickly builds up into something else. I'll just give you a little treat of it right there without getting too deep. I don't want to give too much of it away, but come enjoy the supernatural trappings that go on with the cop drama. Look at that stuff, Kevin. Isn't that beautiful?
They're shooting monsters.
Blam.
Blam.
Yes, indeed. Shooting monsters. What's not to love about that? Going forward even farther.
What is that? What is the title of this?
This is They're Not Like Us.
They're Not Like Us.
21 years of living and nothing means anything to me. Richard James Edwards.
All right.
Okay, so
What is this about? What's the premise here?
Okay, the premise of this story, you have this young woman who finds herself fleeing from people, trying to get out of a hospital, and she is helped by a rather cryptic fellow who may or may not be on the up and up, but he introduces her to, he explains to her that, I'm sorry, I pulled that away too fast, folks. Let me bring this up one more time, and there we go. She's introduced to a group of people who, like her, are psychics, people who possess unusual mental abilities like telepathy and machine empathy, telekinesis, that sort of thing.
So this isn't, they're not like us, those darn foreigners. This is...
Right. This is really... So, but the guy explains to her that they have rules. Their group has rules. And you're thinking to yourself that these are going to be the rules of conduct for how they live among us in harmony. And it's harmonious, but not necessarily for the rest of us.
Oh.
This is only the first issue. I believe this will build into something much more intense as it goes forward.
So this is a little more Brotherhood rather than Xavier's School.
A little bit. Not quite on that magnitude of we're going to conquer the world, but it's got some fire starter kind of trappings to it that, sort of a shadowy underground thing.
All right.
Only it's not the government this time.
Speaking of the government.
Lastly, speaking of the government, inspired by the hit TV series was S.H.I.E.L.D. #1. This came in last week. I took it home. I read it. I was introduced to a 9-year-old Phil Coulson, quickly taken to an 18-year-old Phil Coulson, brought into young S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Phil Coulson. This is a up and down page. I just wanted to make sure I was facing it in the right direction. This is fantastic. I love Mark Waid.
Now, so what I read about this, and correct me if I'm wrong. What I read about this is these. This is the characters, the same characters from the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV show, brought into the Marvel 616 universe.
Well, actually, these would be the characters from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which includes the television series, and they are repurposed into the main comic book continuity.
But I mean, are they? It's
a
cross-dimensional thing, right?
Well, yes. Obviously without acknowledging the presence of the cinematic universe as a separate universe.
Yeah.
So if that has a parallel world number, like, our main Earth, our main comic Marvel universe is 616. The cinematic universe may in fact have a parallel universe number. I do not know what it is.
Oh yeah, it's got 7 digits.
Okay.
I think it ends with 9999.
There are actually a few parallel universes that have 4 digits and 5 digits in their numerical sequence.
It's ridiculous, but anyway.
But yeah, so that's what that is. So you get to see Phil Coulson. We're going to see Agent May. Now what I do not know yet, it's obviously very new. The series is brand new at #1. What I don't know is how they're going to take, Sky/Daisy, who is analogous to Daisy Johnson, a.k.a. Quake, and bring those two together. I do not know what they're going to do with the crossover characters like Dr. Calvin Zabo, and the others, the Inhumans that have been introduced, and so on.
So do you think this is a true bringing the cinematic universe characters into the 616 Marvel comic book universe, the Prime Marvel comic book universe, or do you think this is a copy-paste?
No,
do you see what I mean? Where the existing stays there, and nothing that happens in the comic book universe will actually go back and affect them.
I do not believe that it is a true blending like what you're talking about. I feel like it's more of a necessary cut and paste, and this is why I actually think it's necessary.
I'm saying copy-paste rather than cut and paste.
Sorry, copy-paste. Yeah. This is why I think it's necessary, and I'll make this very, very fast. S.H.I.E.L.D., the entity in Marvel Comics, was built on the old Sergeant Fury, come Colonel Nick Fury, and Dum Dum Dugan, and Gabe Jones, and Jimmy Woo, and older characters who should be much, much older now that we have moved into the 21st century. By bringing in Phil Coulson, we can break away from the World War II holdovers and introduce new characters for this century, who do not have that lengthy age as well as exhaustive continuity.
Sure. Makes sense to me.
Yeah. I will miss classic Clay Quartermain. I will miss classic Jasper Sitwell. I will miss Dum Dum Dugan, Gabe Jones, Eric Koenig, and the rest. But you know what? I'm ready to embrace some younger characters.
Cool with me.
Especially since the characters they've introduced in the show have been very engaging.
I would just hope, personally, like I've said many times before on the shows.
Many times.
Is that I appreciate a long continuity. I appreciate the callbacks to the old stuff. So if any of these characters are still around and they're old, they're in the nursing home or whatever the equivalent, or they are a reference to these new characters.
Sure.
Sometimes. That I would prefer that.
The problem with that is the very uneven consistency that goes with it.
Well, and that's the problem with Marvel's universe.
You start looking at, Dr. Reed Richards, who at one point in time worked with the OSS in World War II. That affects his age for a current writer right now. Same thing with Ben Grimm, who was an Army Air Corps pilot before he became a Navy pilot, before he became a Marine pilot, because we had to keep advancing him through the years to keep him from being 102 years old.
and as I've said many times before, I'm hoping that Marvel changes their policy on time and instead, changes to a legacy type environment.
Well, that's perfectly fine for a character like Captain America or the Submariner, but I'm not ready for Franklin Richards to suddenly be 30 years old.
No, not suddenly. But if say starting today, they take things in a more logical, real world age progression, I would appreciate that. Now, if they want to say that a lot of characters have powers or abilities or potions or whatever that keep them young, I'm fine with that too. But I'm saying that many characters should, in my opinion, here age and progress and become the mentor, become the parent, become the grandparent.
Sure, but the problem with that, Kevin, is that remember how old you and I are. That means that now
I try not to.
we wouldn't have, you and I wouldn't enjoy Spider-Verse as it is right now because our Peter Parker would be so much older.
But they could grab an old Peter Parker from our youth and say, oh, here's 80s Peter Parker and he acts like this. I'd be fine with that.
This guy.
The cross-universe things, I'm great with, as long as you explain it in a, let's say, better than Joe Quesada way. Sorry, Joe, but that's how I feel. Anyway.
He's going to punch you in the eye.
You know what? Joe and I have had a rough relationship. It's pretty much one way. He does stuff, and I grouse about it. That's kind of the... It's kind of the way it goes.
So that was my stuff from the previous week to kind of catch people up. Let's talk about this week.
This week.
Yeah,
let me start speaking of Spider. Let's talk about Spider-Verse. We've got The Amazing Spider-Man, number 12. Look at that cover. Spider-Verse, to me, and I was just speaking with Matt Cernacker from the ComicsOnline site and everything, and we both agree that Spider-Verse has been really the best Marvel event in quite some time. We're both thrilled with this, and we hope you will be too. If you haven't already jumped on, come on here to Flashback, and Troy will help you out. It is really strong, and if you enjoy any Spider-Man comics of any type, or not necessarily comics. Maybe you enjoy the cartoons, maybe any of the cartoons, and there have been, like 7 series overall. They all take a jump in to this cross-dimensional thing. Now, also, I'm just going to jump onto my second one here.
Why don't you go ahead and jump onto your second one there, Kevin?
Spider-Man 2099 is one of the many universes that Spider-Verse has been taking a look at. And our pal from 2099 is now written... Oh, by the way, this is issue 7. Brittany, this is issue 7. Peter David, which you can pretty much never go wrong.
Peter David is pretty much solid quality goodness on a regular basis.
Here's the interior art. We've got Sliny and Fabella listed on the cover here. And, another one. Sorry. I lost it. Here, let's go. There we go.
That's a good one.
Marc's got a timing, so you guys can actually look at it. All right. Anyway,
that actually worked out pretty good. I'd like to do that from now on. That was pretty freaking sweet. Thank you, Marc Lutz, cameraman.
Marc, our producer, our cameraman, our just good guy that helps out. He does all the stuff.
Our man about town.
Is he about town?
Oh, dude, this guy's got it all over Ben Franklin. Let me tell you what.
All right. I'm not sure what that means, but those are my first two. And you've got some Marvel ones this week as well.
Uncharacteristically, I'm very, very Marvel heavy this week. Now, I normally like to shine a lot of love on a lot of different publishers. People know that I love Dynamite, I love Boom, I love Avatar. I'm very, very respectful of Dark Horse, very, very respectful of Image and the quality titles that they put out. But this week, I ran Marvel heavy, and I'm just going to go with it. It's very uncharacteristic of me. This is not how 2015 will be every single week. But this week, lean that microphone over here.
Yes, sir.
The Winter Soldier. Okay. Now, people who followed along from Original Sin have, yes, thank you. They know that Nick Fury was not what he appeared to be until we found him in space, hanging out in the Watcher's Fortress of Solitude. And Nick Fury has come down as previously the Man on the Wall, and his role has been filled by the Winter Soldier, James Buchanan Barnes. I have a hard time calling this guy Bucky anymore. He's really done a lot of growing up. Since being brought back into main continuity, alive and healthy by Edward Brubaker, you know, I've recanted a lot of my criticisms about bringing Bucky back to life. So
you know what we really need to do here, Troy? Now, this looks really good, and I'm kind of into this. I'm going to have to pick this up. But what's really interesting me about this comic is that ad on the back. Let's look at that ad on the back real quick, shall we?
Are you referring to the Guardians of the Universe team up?
The Guardians team up. My goodness, look at that! And who's
Guardians of the Galaxy? I'm sorry.
I know who you meant. And you know who did that art? Look at that! Look at that art, Marc. Can you see this art? Speaking of art, it's Art Adams. I love Art Adams. It's Bendis and Art Adams. How are you going to lose? That's amazing. Thank you, Marvel, for giving me a Bendis and Adams joint. Love it.
Now,
two of my favorites together. It's like chocolate and peanut butter up in this.
I really should have done this first before I did Winter Soldier, but I'm really, really jazzed about Alex Cott's story on the Winter Soldier up to this point.
All right.
So, thank you, sir. This is Original Sin.
Operation Sin.
Operation Sin. I'm sorry, I keep saying original.
Because the logo is practically the same.
Yeah.
See, now that one you can reuse, not like that Sixus logo.
Oh, Axis.
You know, I've had people come back to me and say, you know what, you were right. Who have watched the show and said, you know what, you were right. It does look like Sixus.
This guy. Okay, so what we're getting a look at here is Agent Peggy Carter and Howard Stark.
Agent Peggy Carter and Howard Stark. Oh,
yeah, this is clearly looking at their look at the costumes they're wearing there. Look at their style of dress, I should say, rather than costumes. This is obviously set in an earlier point in time.
And a DC character on the front too.
What original or Operation Sin is going to do is going to help to make sense of the story directional changes since we have learned more of the truth about Nick Fury.
Who's that character? Who's the character that I'm?
I haven't gotten that far yet. Oh, so you're just gonna have to pick that up and read that.
I will,
along with your S.H.I.E.L.D., along with your Winter Soldier, because I recommended Winter Soldier to you back at issue 1, and you thought, I'm gonna pass. Now you're looking at it and going, I really do want that. So yep,
I'm still a little bit up in the air, but when it comes to Operation Sin and when it comes to S.H.I.E.L.D., I'm fully on board.
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to get Kevin to 200 titles a month if it's the last thing I do for the year 2015.
My family will set you on fire.
Then I, much like Denzel Washington, will be a man on fire.
All right. So,
All right, that's 2 for me and 2 for you.
All right. I've got another Marvel one. Shocker.
Oh, here's a shock.
Legendary Star-Lord. Now, I've been behind on things. Now, Troy just asked me when I walked in the door a little bit ago, hey, have you been reading any comics? And I said, well, not a lot. You know, one of the few things that I have read is Legendary Star-Lord. And I was shocked in a happy way to learn that good old Peter Quill has got a new love interest, new to me anyway. And one of my very favorite characters of all time, Kitty Pryde, well, she found herself a new Peter, so to speak.
Longtime fans of Kitty Pryde will remember that she also had a tumultuous relationship with Pete Wisdom of British Special Services.
And before that, Peter Nikolaevich Rasputin.
I gave him the opportunity to take the easy one.
Thank you for the easy one. I'm just saying that Kitty likes the Peter, and her name is Kitty. Come on, Marvel. Are you going to beat us over the head with this? Anyway. It's great. It's great. I'm loving it. You know, obviously, jumping off of the huge Fury. That's
the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy movie. Everybody loves it.
The Guardians of the Galaxy series has been fantastic. Peter's characterization in Legendary Star-Lord has also been fantastic. I'd also recommend picking up the other solo book that has come out of this, Rocket Raccoon, Scotty Young.
Speaking of solo, he's pretty much the Marvel Universe's Han Solo. I mean, he really is. I mean, he's like a better version. Sorry, Star Wars people. You know, Han Solo, he's got his 3 movies, and he's excellent. But Star-Lord, man. Star-Lord. I think I like him better.
Who?
Indeed.
So, you know what, Kevin?
Yeah.
Why don't the next time you come down to the shop here, why don't you crack into your vault of comics and show me your Marvel preview magazines with the first appearance of Star-Lord? I'm sure you have those things, right? You have all of his comic appearances, right?
I don't. I definitely do not. And in fact, I don't have the. Wasn't there an original Marvel graphic novel with him in it back in the day?
There was a special edition which reprinted the Claremont Byrne stuff.
Oh, that was an original? That was a trade?
No. That was it was repackaged as a thicker trade with more stuff in it, or not as a trade, but as a double-sized comic, special issue.
Okay. I may have that, but I don't have the originals.
Very well.
Yeah.
I will crack into my vault and I will share my stuff.
Oh, well, yeah. Once I get totally caught up, I'm going over and Troy's gonna have to kick me out of his house often.
All right, it's 2015. How long do we have to wait for you to get caught up?
Not terribly long, maybe a month or so.
Hopefully, he'll get caught up in time to read this.
Yes, sir.
Wolverines, plural.
Do we need more than one Wolverine?
Yeah, we do.
We've got X-23. We've got, Dakin?
Dakin, X-23, Deathstrike, Sabretooth.
And?
Mystique, and I'm not quite certain about that last one there, but... Okay.
Mystique is a Wolverine?
Lady Deathstrike, Mystique, Sabretooth, Lady Deathstrike, Dakin, and X-23.
All right.
Hey, check a look at that blood-splattered Mystique there.
Oh, you know who that looks like? That looks like who's currently wearing the Ronin outfit that used to be Hawkeye. That's what it looks like on the cover.
It does a little bit. Hey, Thunderbolt.
That got passed on, right?
Yes.
To somebody. Who was it? Come on, you're the Encyclopedia Troitanica. I wasn't really even trying to stump you. I just figured you would know.
That went to Echo.
Oh.
In the pages of New Avengers.
Right.
When Brian Michael Bendis was handling that book.
Okay.
Oh, my goodness. Really? Kevin.
Ah, well.
If you were, like me, actually reading your 100-plus comics every week, you'd know this stuff.
And my family would set me on fire.
They don't do that anyway?
Don't give them we won't let them watch this episode, listen to this episode.
Kevin is
wanna give
rather
him the
like
ideas.
Deadpool with a healing factor. He just, his family beats him up every week, and then he comes back to the store, and he looks fine.
More or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that, or they kind of work around
Under the mask.
what the clothes hide.
Well, that's why I had to grow the beard. Saw the scarring.
The bristling beard of Odin.
Yeah.
So, hey, Kevin, looks like you broke out of your Marvel mold there.
Yeah, I got an image book here, Tech Jacket. Now, I've been told that Tech Jacket did actually have some appearance beyond just backup stories in Invincible, but I haven't read any of those. So I'm kind of interested to pick up number 1 here.
This is actually number 7, Kevin.
Oh, is that just a weird 7? Damn it.
Actually, it's a 7, much like any other 7. It does lack the European crossbar, which I know you're much more comfortable with.
Well, that font just doesn't beat you over the head with the upper section. But all right, fine. It's Tech Jacket number 7. I like Tech Jacket in his appearances in good old Invincible. So I might have to check this out, even if it is a number 7.
It is the world's second best superhero series. I assume that means that Invincible is still the first.
Invincible is a really good superhero series, so I don't fault them for saying that. Or at least that Invincible is the best. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, well, Joe Keating, Carrie Randolph, Emilio Lopez, Tech Jacket, number 7. I've actually been reading, I'm behind a couple of issues. I'm caught up to issue 5, but been a pretty good book. You should check this out. You saw the inside. If you're a fan of Invincible, you know the least you need to know. It's your mission as a fan of the character to spread the word, be a comic ambassador, tell 2 friends so they could tell 2 friends, and they could tell 2 friends.
And then
so
you'll be
on,
shampooed
and so
well.
on, and so on.
Yeah.
All right. So, now, my next pick is another Marvel.
Hey, so lately Marvel has been a little bit crazy with their Ant-Man trailers. First they had the teaser trailer where it was just Ant-Man. It was teeny tiny. It was like 16 pixels, and you're like, thanks Marvel, you jerks. But now we've got an Ant-Man number 1, a reboot comic book. And which Ant-Man is this going to star?
This is going to be Scott Lang. Scott Lang, the second Ant-Man.
Didn't he die for a while?
Yes, he did, but he's back, and he's been with us ever since, he's been with us for quite some time. Were you not reading Matt Fraction's FF series, where he was leading the Future Foundation along with Darla Deering?
Oh, I knew this. You're right.
Oh, geez, really?
I was. You know what? I was, and I didn't know why he came back. I didn't know how he came back. Because I remember, in Young Avengers, his daughter, Cassie Lang, Stature.
Yes, Stature.
Was still... oh, my dad's dead, that sucks, type of thing. That was part of her storyline. But then all of a sudden, I did read FF and Fantastic Four when Johnny went away and they rebooted the numbers.
So, yes, personally, Scott Lang is my favorite of the 3 iterations of Ant-Man up to this point. Don't get me wrong, I have a great deal of admiration for Hank Pym as a character. I remember Hank Pym as Giant Man. That was my introduction to him. That's how old I am. And then later, his transformative years into Goliath, and finally Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket is my favorite incarnation of Hank Pym.
Did you really into wife beating?
Well, no. Before all that, and see, that's a thing. That's an aspect of Henry Pym that I was not really wild about. That did not seem anemic of the character that I had come to love over the years. But certainly the run of Hank Pym that was done by artist George Perez, also with art by John Byrne in that time period, between Avengers 100 and I'm going to say 130 all the way through to about 202, Hank Pym really contributed something strong to the Avengers as Yellow Jacket. That's my favorite incarnation of Hank. Scott Lang, on the other hand, really took the role of Ant-Man and did amazing with it. My introduction to Scott Lang was actually in the pages of the Invincible Iron Man during the Demon in a Bottle days, and then his return in Iron Man when he helped Tony Stark out. He was trapped in his armor after a battle with the Hulk. Also, Scott helped out the Avengers during the first appearance of the Taskmaster.
That's where I remember him from.
So, yeah.
I have that one.
And
Great cover.
Scott just grew on me. Actually, check with me after the show, because I think I want to show you my copy of Marvel Premiere with the first appearance of Scott Lang as the Ant-Man. A little back issue time with Kevin. I've missed him so.
He's going to win every time, folks. I mean, I've got some cool stuff, but all the cool stuff that I have, Troy probably also has. So I'm just going to assume that he wins every time.
So, yeah, Ant-Man #1. That's looking pretty spectacular. What you got next for me, Kev?
My final one for this week.
Cullen Bunn again?
Cullen Bunn. Wolf Moon. And I know you picked this for the first one. This is number 2. I know you picked this for the first one, and you know what? I haven't read it yet, so I've got to read it. Sorry, Cullen. By the way, we have a preview of Cullen Bunn's new thing coming up. Hell in a Cell. Hell Rescuers. Sorry, Cullen. I'm not remembering. There's too many things that start with hell. What's it called?
I forget. You sent me something, but I can't open the link.
Anyway, we're gonna preview that for you guys at some point here soon. It is one of those things that we are looking forward to. And by the way, part 2 of this is our first one of the year. This is our what we're looking forward to episode. So in part 2, we're going to start talking about all the things that are coming up, including that new ongoing series by Cullen Bunn.
Talking about Wolf Moon, though, since that's what's right in front of us,
yep.
Another new title from Vertigo, DC Comics Vertigo imprint.
Yeah. The other one's Oni.
Yeah, well, Vertigo has been sort of reimagined over the last few years, since DC's New 52 absorbed the previous Vertigo and the Wildstorm universe. This new iteration of Vertigo has had great books like FBP and Coffin Hill, The Wake, just lots of good stuff. Wolf Moon is the latest. There were actually several titles released kind of close together. Kitchen, Names, Bodies, Wolf Moon. Vertigo is starting to kill me too now. It's hard to keep up with it all.
Well, and they're bringing back older stuff, right? They're bringing back some of their old stuff. Sandman, obviously, Sandman Overture.
So Sandman Overture
was one of the original Vertigo titles.
Well, yes, Sandman was published before it was officially Vertigo, but yes.
But you get about to issue 4 or something like that, and then it becomes Vertigo.
But that would also include, bear in mind, that would also include titles like Swamp Thing and John Constantine Hellblazer.
And can we just bring Hellblazer back to Vertigo? Because I'll buy every one of them.
No,
buy all the spin-offs.
We can't, because Constantine is part of the greater DC universe now and part of the Justice League Dark.
He can just have it how we had it before. I loved it. Why ruin it, DC? Don't ruin it.
You didn't ruin it. You made it better.
Oh, and here's another thing. Here's an ad. American Vampire.
The second cycle?
Second cycle. So that was a previous hit for Vertigo some years ago.
Well, the American Vampire was, but now American Vampire's second cycle
and it's a return. Yes. It's a return.
Yes. Scott Snyder can continue to knock it out of the park there.
As usual.
Yes. Quick aside, if you're not checking out Scott Snyder's Witches from Image Comics, you probably want to take a moment and do that very thing.
Troy, you know what else I read? I was going to say watch. You know what else I read?
What's that?
Scott Snyder's Batman.
Mm-hmm.
I read a New 52 title. I feel like I should be scolded or something for doing so, punished. But, it's Scott Snyder, so I'm going to do it.
Yeah. The Scott Snyder Batman series has just been incredible since the inception of the New 52, and it continues to amaze. Now, before we get too sidetracked talking, blowing up Scott Snyder's ego, which would actually be pretty easy to do because he has so much amazement under his belt.
He's a humble guy.
Yeah. So, My fifth and final, since Wolf Moon from Vertigo was yours, my fifth and final is...
The Unbeatable Squirrel Girl!
Yeah, the Unbeatable Squirrel Girl. Now I'm going to tell
Number one.
I'm going to tell you, comic fans, I was not a fan of Squirrel Girl in the beginning. When I read her first appearance, I thought, my goodness, this is silliness taken one step too far.
And this one is very cartoony, so who is this going to appeal to here?
Well, here's the thing, though. As the months, as the years went on, and I read more Squirrel Girl stories, I started to actually like the character a bit more. I liked her appearances in the Great Lakes Avengers, GLA, and I liked her taking on the role of nanny for hire for Jessica and Luke Cage's baby, Danielle. She had a very memorable appearance in the pages of New Avengers. And I thought to myself, you know what? I gave Rocket Raccoon a second chance after Annihilation Conquest, and I've not been disappointed in that. I'm going to open up my heart to Squirrel Girl here, and I'm going to give her a chance. This does not follow a mega epic like Annihilation Conquest, and it doesn't put her in an ensemble with other characters that I'm near and dear to, but it's still... I'm giving it a chance to be good, and I'm not trash-talking Squirrel Girl anymore, although I maintain that her first appearance, in which she aids Iron Man to defeat Dr. Doom, was pretty darn silly.
And this cartoony style seems to lend itself to that sort of story.
And there's a thing, like, the sort of cartoonishness that's in Scotty Young's Rocket Raccoon. And I'm liking that. It lends itself to the book. It's not out of place. It's not too much. So, once again, I'm going to not let my initial thumb through color my vision. I'm going to sit and read it in a moment of quiet. And I will probably come back and say in months to come, hey, if you're not checking out Unbeatable Squirrel Girl, you should be.
So we're thinking that this is a all-ages book that is still appreciable by adults?
I would say so. Right. I would say so.
That's my guess, just by...
Well, now it does have a T rating.
Really?
But a lot of Marvel books that are fine for all ages have a T rating, probably encompassing the cartoon violence or fantasy violence.
Sure.
But most Marvel books, even though we don't have a comic book code anymore, most Marvel titles, if they're not a Max title, do not have exceptionally strong language or graphic sexual situations or other mature themes. They may, however, be written to a higher reading level than what your average young person is geared toward.
And that might be what we're saying here.
Again, I caution all parents, hey, check it out before you just give it to your kids. I will happily stand here in the store and open up a book and show it to you and tell you what I thought when I read it. But parents, you need to make up your own minds. Just because I think it's all right, you might not think it's all right for your kids. So, I'm not going to tell you how to raise your young readers. You check it out and you make that determination.
But whatever you do, feed them comics or else. There's good stuff. No matter how gentle you're being with your young ones.
How many comics is Coraline reading these days?
She beats them up too bad. It makes me a little too stressed out to give her comics. Now, I got her some stuff in Free Comic Book Day.
So you don't let her read your Walking Deads?
God, no. But even cartoony kid comics, which I've given her several. She'll go and be a little too rough with, and I'm like, because I've got a long box of kids comics in
Amazing Fantasy 15.
Kids comics, cartoony stuff.
I defy you to show me what in Amazing Fantasy 15 is objectionable content.
But Uncle Ben dies. Spoilers for a 60-year-old comic. 50. Uncle Ben dies.
Oh.
So anyway.
Well, that's our top 5.
That's our top 5 for this week, and stay tuned for part 2. If you scroll down or something, you should see a link for part 2 here, and we're going to talk about...
here.
We're going to talk about what's to come in 2015, what we're looking forward to.
Right. Yep. Are my fingers there? Down.
There you go.
Oh, excellent. And over. Excellent. Okay, there we go. Right where my finger was.
Happy New Year, Troy.
Bad finger.
Do you have any? Did you press it? No. Oh, hey. Do you have any resolutions for comics this year?
Yes, to read more of them.
Okay, fine. Me too. See you next week.
From leaping tall buildings to going off like gamma bombs. Switch your internet browser to ComicsOnline.com.